Oh,
here comes one.
So I recently read your profile in the New Yorker 2 weeks ago, or whenever that was, and I was curious. In it, Bill Murray, in addition to complimenting you, mentioned that there had been a lack of funding on Rushmore, and that he had written you a check to complete the film. And I was wondering what that scene was that he gave the check to complete.
That's a good one. That's funny because yes, we had in the script we had a helicopter. His character. In the course of Jason Schwartzman's character has done some fundraising with Bill Murray's character, and he helicopters onto the field. They're building a natatorium. Their plan is to build a natatorium at the school, and he helicopters in and lands, and all the students gather around, and I think he gets in the helicopter with Bill Murray and takes off from the school. And it was a scene of the kid who who manages to get picked up in a helicopter, and we were over schedule, not by 2 days or something, but Bill Murray, when Bill Murray, he gave me a blank check, and said, "Do the helicopter scene," and I now realize I just stupidly didn't take the money. I mean, I have the check still, but as just a memento. But at the time, I felt I can't do it. But he actually had done the movie for. I think he was paid like $9,000. I think he made money eventually, but he did it he just did it for. He said, "I will take." He did it for less money than we were prepared to ask him to take. We didn't feel comfortable asking him. So he was really almost like a producer at that point. And we had a great time with him.
Cool.
So.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed the deadpan in both your movies, and this kind of relates back to something you were talking about earlier when you were mentioning the difficulties with bringing the animated characters alive in Fox. And I think a lot of the success in your deadpan is in the reaction shots, in particular the facial subtleties. And when I first saw the trailer of Fox, the first thing that jumped out at me is I was wondering how difficult it must be to capture those subtleties and succeed in that humor when you're tasked with bringing those subtleties to your animated characters, your stop-motion characters. Mm-hmm. Is that something you were mindful of when you were making this? And do you think... I was going to say, do you think that you achieved what you wanted?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. I think an interesting thing that I sort of thought. I think we were both kind of aware of this when we were writing it. We weren't writing kind of like that scene we just saw where he's kind of they're talking and he's saying, "Was I just mean to her? I'll say something." And it has little asides and. I think our goal was to kind of have naturalistic behavior, like puppets acting like sort of documentary performances from puppets, and I think that the way the key technique I found for doing that was making little videos. That I could send to the animators, where something that's kind of you can't quite describe it in words, some sort of reaction, that you just couldn't describe. We could share those, and they could send me images back, and we could have a kind of dialogue with just performing for each other.
So you do videos of yourself?
I do videos of myself. Yeah, usually, unfortunately, most of them in my pajamas. Because usually it's sort of an emergency, and they need me to give the thing I want right away, and it's embarrassing to email yourself acting out an animal in the morning in your pajamas to a large group of people in England.
But do you worry these things will turn up on
I have
YouTube?
I have worried significantly. I mean, it would be one of the deepest humiliations I can imagine if these things start to get out there. Not that anybody would care, but I would.
I remember when we were writing, we had sort of the flip side of that, because one thing was to sort of treat them, to the asides and things, to make it very human and put it in puppet animals. The other thing was things that maybe wouldn't necessarily play with humans that we thought would be funny, because we would say, like, he talks about Kylie, and he's a little like this, and I remember us just cracking up at the idea of a puppet making that gesture. So in those cases, that probably wouldn't have made it into, might not have made it into a live action.
Right. It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be worth it.
Although by the reaction we got here, we should think
we
about that more often. Yeah.
Do you remember where Kylie came from?
Was it your real estate guy? It was
the guy who was living in the apartment I bought. When I went with the real estate agent to the apartment, there was a guy who was the handyman.
That's right.
Of the person who was selling the apartment and who was living there. And then he was exactly as we portrayed him, I feel. And after 6 months after I bought the apartment and was kind of still trying to figure out how to do the renovation, I realized that he was still there. He was still living there. I thought he was just doing little odd jobs, and that's why I would run into him. But no, he was still living there.
That's right. I was just thinking, like, this is sort of how things get into the scripts. But in Life Aquatic, we had just sitting there. We'd both recently bought apartments, and you had to have a structural engineer come and just, this is how much time we were spending together, that you'd be like, and that his name would somehow enter the conversation. But you said, I think his name was Larry Ubell. I said, I had Larry Ubell do my structural, which is just, just totally boring even for us then. But somehow, but then we made Bud Cort's character Bill Ubell. Yeah, the Bond Company stooge. Yeah,
and the thing, the funny thing is, every movie after that I've done, at that time, all the movies I'd done were studio movies. They're not bonded. Since then, my movies are bonded, and they like that Bond Company stooge. The Bond Company people seem to like it. The Bud Cort spent time with the Bond Company people.
With my Bond Company stooge on Squid, yeah.
The woman.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Maureen. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, she was a good Bond Company stooge.
The best. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Now that we're all such good friends here, could you tell us the pornographic poem?
Oh, God. Can I tell it to you when you tell them?
I think it'd be good if you do it.
What? Do you remember it?
I don't remember it.
Write it on a slip of paper and just give it to her.
I can
pass it around.
Say it. What she needs is a belly full of hot cock. That was it.
Yeah.
That was the sentence he showed us on the paper, which I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I am never going to forget that.
Yeah. I did forget it, but I think I blocked it. Well, we should have put that in the movie, because we could have. What she needed is a belly full of hot cuss. Because we did. If you haven't seen the movie, we did this thing to be able to curse in a kids movie. We came up with our own way was to use cuss as a curse, as an actual curse word.
Yes. I think there are places where the context would still cross the line, and that might be
that would be one.
That might be one of them.
Well, we had one that I think you would take out where the Badger's going to give a toast, and then Mr. Fox interrupts him, and then Badger says, "Foxy cuss blocked my toast."
Yes.
Yes. But that isn't in the movie.
We didn't have the guts.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were saying how that one last amazing shot took 2 months to make, and I'm wondering. I'm assuming you were watching it being made, or you would check some seconds of footage so it wasn't after 2 months and you notice a minor mistake in it. Would you be overly forgiving? Would there be a way to go back and correct that mistake? I mean, or would you be like, gee, I don't really want to hurt the animators' feelings and like make them work another 3 weeks? You know.
No, you know what? The way it worked is each day I would get I would get the dailies, which are each shot we're working on up to that day plus whatever was done that day. So really, when you're watching the dailies, you're watching all the stuff you've seen, and then the last seconds of each shot, you say, okay, now what do we get today? Good, that's what you hope for.
But
Great.
if that had to be redone, I guess they had the positions down correctly, so it wouldn't be that hard to.
Well, with a shot like that, we've actually done a rehearsal of it. So it's in a series of rehearsals. We've filmed the shot several times without animating all the frames and all the poses. So we've done a lot of sort of practicing. And then, but when he finally settles into it, we just watch each day. And with one like this, really, it's, for me, my mood for the night is what happens. How do I feel at the end of these dailies? And that was a shot where every night watching it grow was just very thrilling. Because it was just it's this big thing, and with one of our best animators.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.